or if I have a graphic organizer that I'm doing with kids, it could be a metacognitive exercise. It could be a reading, like a really, really short reading that I'm doing in class with my students. And what I do is I go into the new Flipgrid Shorts area. And if you're not familiar with Flipgrid Shorts, it's just literally like a place where you can record tiny little videos. And what I do is I use this area as like my creative space that, like, for example, like if a student, if I give them a real short reading and they need me to be there to read the text to them, I just record myself. It takes less than 5 minutes on Flipgrid, and then there's some QR codes, and I can just drop those into anything that is online. It's just embeddable. So I drop it into graphic organizers. I mean, I could literally do anything with this. And what's great about this is that I can take it and then I can add in, like, for example, like one of the best things I found for this is parents, because a lot of times it's like when we send something home for students to, you know, elaborate or modify their learning, the parents have no idea what skill the kids are trying to learn. And so the QR code is literally a chance for me to say, okay, guys, here's what we're trying to accomplish with this particular graphic organizer, right? We're trying to look at this particular kind of thinking and this kind of skill. You know, here's a couple hints and things that I'd, you know, recommend, and yada, yada, yada. Right. The awesome thing is that because it goes through Flipgrid also has immersive reader, which means that all of like anything that I say gets transcribed, and then it can be downloaded into like hundreds of languages for families and their students. So that would be the first thing that I would kind of share as an idea. It's just using that new Flipgrid AR. And by the way, if you haven't tried Flipgrid AR, it's a ton of fun. And you can try them with the QR. Like if you just download the Flipgrid app and you just scan it with your phone and it pops up in augmented reality, it's like, whoa, you know, it's a neat effect. Yeah. The second thing that I wanted to show you guys is just another app that you may not have heard of before. It's not super well known. I think I talked to actually JD and John last time, or maybe it was a few times ago that I was here about this, and it's called IORAD. And so there's the link to the blog post that I did about it. It's not super well known, but it's getting there. What it does, and probably the best thing to do is actually to scroll down so you can like actually see one of them, is it makes interactive tutorials. And I love it because like anytime that I give students procedural, you know, work, like anything that takes like a process, I can make an IORAD tutorial. And it literally takes me, again, like less than 5 minutes once you kind of learn how it works. And I'll just show you what it looks like. And so if you ever have ever sent like kids to the computer lab, like, and given them like, I always remember doing this as a kid. Like, you know, we'd go to the computer lab, and then the teacher would hand us a sheet of like steps to do. Maybe there might be screenshots if this, you know, if the teacher was real sophisticated, and then that would be it, right? But with this, we're actually interactively doing the steps. And so what you're looking at is actually one of my lessons for flipped learning. And it says, you know, click right here. It says your lesson today is Ravenous Reagan and concluding the Cold War. So they have to click here to go to their warm up, and they would do that. Read today's objective. They have to actually read it, and then it goes on. Watch this video first, and they have to actually click the square. So what IORAD does is it shows them interactively what they have to do step by step. And the other thing about this is that any tutorial that I make, I can add in automatic auditory directions for students. It just does it with like an Amazon voice, which is dope and awesome. And also I can translate it with Google Translate, any like directions that I make into like a bajillion languages with literally just like a single click. And I love this because like I can use it for students with flip teaching. If I'm gone on a sub day and my students are lost and they have no idea what to do, it like actually shows them, you know, okay, click here, then open this, right, et cetera, et cetera. But like, you can also send these to parents. Like the amount of times that I've got asked, how do I log into Canvas? Or, you know, what is this Power School? And it's like, okay, here's how you do it. right? And instead of just having to like sit there and have that same conversation 85,000 times, I can say, hey, I've got this tutorial, watch it, try it, and it teaches them how to do it interactively, which is so much more meaningful than just me like having to compose that email 85 times about where you access things. So it's a great tool for like parents and students alike, and it's also free, so which is great. Oh yeah, like registration processes, all that jazz. Like it's super underutilized. Yeah. So those would be like two strategies that I would say, give them a try and see if they work.
So what my special ed co-teacher, because I teach all mainstream, my English classes are all mainstream. My special ed co-teacher, we keep saying that now in this environment, every kid is a special ed kid. Every kid is going to need some sort of accommodation now, right? Because we're not in our natural. Let me just throw it out to the special ed teachers in the room here. What do you think, the benefit of having those verbal instructions, and how does that carry over to any of the students that we have right now? How about one of our special ed teachers here? Somebody, please. Well, the thing that I think that, when I look at this is it fills in those blanks that a paper won't have, right? Like it's just like kind of like you were talking about with the IORAD. Here's this, and this, and you got to read all these things. And it's like it fills in the blanks, some of those questions, some of those things you forget to write about, right? So what is the benefit of having those kinds of second and third layer of instructions or delivery, do you guys think?
I'll jump in. It took me a minute to unmute my mic, but I know that for us, the teachers are coming from different platforms, some using Canvas, some using Google Classroom, just different things, and not labeling their lessons the same way for each day of the week. And so it is tremendously confusing. So yes, the ability to use a voice, I've been able to figure out Canvas Conference. And even when a student comes in and is only listening, if they don't have a microphone on their device, just being able to speak directions to them instead of them having to read from an email or a chat or whatever, it has been tremendous in getting. I just spoke to a student 2 nights ago, and I think he's turned in 10 assignments since we spoke, and he had only turned in 3 in the 3 weeks before that. So it's tremendously important.
Does anybody here who would agree with me here that having that voice makes that extra connection that maybe we didn't have in just this kind of disconnected distance learning? I see a lot of nods there. Chris H, because I know you teach all online, and we talked a little bit about that last time, making those connections, right?
As Chris tries to frantically unmute her microphone right
I was just wrapping up dinner. I was just like,
We always wait till your mouth is full before we ask questions.
No, I think that's what I'm thinking. I've heard of IORAD, and I think I had probably first heard about it on the Google Teacher podcast that I heard with Nate and his mom. But I have yet to look into it. I actually bookmarked the site, but haven't explored it yet. But I'm thinking that would be super helpful, because I always worry about with my students, because it's asynchronous. We don't have any live sessions, that they just figure it's robo teacher, out there. It's not really a human being. But if I could put, I try to put voice and video and things in there of me, but I think something like IORAD would be really helpful for breaking things down and making it easier, and for parents if they're helping. But the Flipgrid videos, I was also thinking would be really cool, especially for the students who need more support. I link them to tools that they can use, like the Immersive Reader, the extension on Google Chrome, where you can highlight text and right click it, and then it pulls it into Immersive Reader. But yeah, it would be more helpful to have some like little cool links in there to shorter videos and audio and stuff like that. So I think they both sound really great for online or distance learning for emergency situations.
Yeah. And
or in
a
any
lot of,
situation, really.
and a lot of like what you do is it's also very, very small things. So like if you're like recording lessons with Screencastify, or Flipgrid or whatever you use for your screen recorder, and if you use Google Slides, like turn on the caption feature while you're recording. And if you don't know what the caption feature is on Google Slides, here's a fun trick. If you didn't know, you can type in slides.new in your browser and it'll just open up a new Google Slides for you. But if you go and start a presentation, just like turn on CC captions, and it's not going to be 100% accurate, but if you have students who are deaf or hard of hearing, it makes it like so much more accessible for them, as opposed to just being able to like use lip reading.
Mm-hmm. We have a question here. Kayla wants to know, there's an Amazon voice reader. Can you overlay your own voice?
Yes, you can, but that takes the premium version, and it is redonkulously expensive. I know right now they're working on trying to bring that down. What I did is I didn't use the premium features. This is like 3 or 4 years ago when I stumbled across them. And I just like emailed them like, hey, I'd love to try out like some of the stuff that's on here. And they were like, yeah, sure, try an account. Here you go. Yeah. So you can always reach out to them if you'd like to give a few of them a try. I think you can do on 2 of your tutorials, you can do some of the premium features. So yeah, and right now they do. Yeah, Carrie says they have a discount for teachers going on. A lot of these companies do. So
awesome. So just throwing it out here to the group then, what are some other areas of accessibility that we have run into, be it for your regular ed or your special ed students? What are some other areas of accessibility that are some things we really need to start thinking about and addressing?
I would love to hear answers about this.
I would too.
For me personally, a lot of the stuff that I'm not able to do as much through digital is creative learning. Something that isn't just, all right, here's the assignment. Like iRad be great for step by step, but when I'm in class, I really enjoy giving very vague guidelines and watching how each student makes their own idea of what that assignment will do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I'm not able to give enough creative outlet, which is what a lot of my students really need right now, is something creative that'll take their mind off of what's going on or not going on.
Yeah, so I can direct you to a couple things. This is something fun that I just learned about a week ago. If you go to Google and you type in alternatives to essays, just try it and see like what the first result is that you get, because that should be our blog, which is kind of funny. But our blog that my mom and I run, we just this last week, Caleb, I had my students do all of these things that you will see. It should be like 18 alternatives to essays or something like that. And all my students just turned these in online. And these are all things that my kids have done in terms of like assessment. So if you scroll down, you'll see like a slide presentation. And for those who aren't knowing where I'm talking about, I will drop the link here in the chat. Paste. There we go. Basically, what I do is, and we were actually just working with the school down in Texas today. A lot of about like how you do assessments or the expectations that you set up with your kids in terms of, and also your transparency about how you're assessing them and those kind of things. And then kind of slowly opening up options. Now, if you say that your kids are like ready to do creative outlet, outlets of expression, go for it. All these things, all the examples that are linked in here are all student examples from my class, and I teach history and I don't do essays, which is like scandal. But like I had kids write choose your own journey stories that they just turned into me. So like if you remember these things as a kid, where you're like, turn to page 25 if you want to, go in the cave, or like, go to page 30 if you don't. Then I'd always pick the wrong one and die. I eventually have kids writing those for me. Now, I actually do them as like a literature thing in my class. Like it's like a reading, writing, thinking, speaking kind of thing. But eventually what I do is through Google Slides, the students eventually have that even as an option. I had a kid last week this is last year, last fall, code a video game that explained honor and slavery in the Old South. So like, which was dope. And it was so good. Like he had his like citations floating in the background of the video game while you played it. And it was so good. Oh yeah. So I don't call him choose your own adventure, because I learned that word is that phrase is trademarked, Teresa. So you find these things out when you publish a book. You can't call them choose your own adventure stories. So I call them choose your own journey stories. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we got another one there.
Yeah, put in quotes. Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
As soon as you say choose your own adventure, you don't put in quotes. You're like $4.99 to this company out there or whatever. Yeah.
So what are some other accessibility issues that you've run into? Because I know one of the things we've run into is like we try to have all these instructions and then it becomes too long to read. So what are some breaking, where's that middle ground? What are some other issues that you guys are kind of running into in our last couple minutes here? Five clicks, yep. Mm-hmm. Yes, even for parents, that is definitely true. Because I think that a lot of times the information doesn't get from the kid, from the student to the parent, and the parent doesn't know how to ask the kid, and the kid won't give it to them or doesn't know it. And so then they come to us. So I think, yeah, definitely being able to give it in formats that the parents can understand. Mm-hmm. Because he's waiting for someone else. Sorry, daughter number 2 is in here. She's trying to jump in on chat again tonight. So let's see, Nate, are you still on share? Are you still on screen?
I don't think so.
Okay. So one of the things, guys, that I always kind of hit on each one of these is kind of that takeaway for, when we go back to the classroom, because most of us in here are regular classroom traditional teachers. And so I feel like I'm teaching the parents. Yes.
Yeah.
I totally get that.
Any suggestions on how to quiz or test virtually? So here, we actually were just talking with a bunch of teachers about this today. Here's what I would say about that. Make your questions application based. Mm-hmm. If you can Google the answer to the question that you're asking, you probably have asked a bad question. Not to say that like there's definitely times where we need to ask, very basic level questions, right? Just so that eventually we can get to that point where we're asking kids critical thinking. But what I try to do is like, even in history, which you don't feel like has a lot of applicability today, like I can take a question like, instead of having a student identify the causes of World War I, I can say, okay, here's all the causes. Tell me which one you think matters more. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden now that puts all the onus and the thinking on them, and they can't Google the answer to that question. I mean, they could try, I guess, but it wouldn't sound like them. Right. So, yeah. Yeah.
Ask questions that are not Googleable. Yeah. And they're a little more harder for us to grade. Mm-hmm. But I think that you eliminate a lot of the problems that, people are afraid of when it comes to this. So, hey,
go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was just going to say it is 7:30 and we have taken our 30 minutes and I do value everybody's time. So don't feel obligated that you have to stay, but you are more than welcome to hang out with us for a while. I know some of us kind of hang out for a while afterwards and talk. So feel free to hang out. We can still talk for a while. But I do appreciate everybody coming, and I hope you join us again on Tuesday night, all right?
And just to know, I do have all the links from tonight in the chat on our website, sowelead.com, under events, or So We Lead Conversations. We will also have our sign-up links for future conversations there.
Awesome, yeah.
And information as we send it out. So definitely keep checking back there. Hopefully we'll have our information for our conversation for Thursday up here soon.
Yes, I got to finalize all that, so I got a call right after this. So,
yeah.
Awesome. Thanks.
I'm going to say I'll put it up. So,
all right. Somebody had a question right there before I interrupted. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm going to drop the feedback link in the chat. If you would be so kind as to provide us with feedback, we will send you a professional growth point certificate. And if you have been here for previous events and you would like to do this multiple times, we will send you a multiple certificates.
Sweet.
It's coming from Bill, but it's not. Just like everything else. Like the good advice Jennifer just got.
Awesome. There you go. Awesome. Somebody had a question. Before we interrupted you. I'm sorry. Who was that? Somebody there? No? Ah, there's our form there. Excellent.
The other thing I would tell, like, and I know there's a lot of teachers, myself included, out there who are very nervous about assessing students right now. Part of me, if I could just sit here and like spam every Frozen meme that I could for my 3-year-old that is currently obsessed, is that I'm going to have to let go of control for some of it. And that's really, really hard for me. I'm not going to be able to stop some of my students from, cheating or, having a book open or whatever it might be. Right. And that can be difficult and hard to accept, but we're here where we are. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, in that part of it though, like, you got to play with the hand you're dealt.
Yeah.
And
something like
in
that.
the classroom, you're going to do it differently because you're standing right there. You're watching, you're engaged. Now you're not. So, and again, that goes back to accessibility to a certain degree. It's like, okay, here's what I have to deal with. Here's what they have access to. How can we leverage that?
There was this crazy system my mom showed me yesterday where it does biometric scannings of your face. It's like a browser that you have to buy if you go to like certain universities, and for assessments that like it watches your facial reaction and how you look at certain questions and like how you do it in the browser, and then assesses like whether or not it thinks you're cheating. Like at that point, you're trying too hard. Like that's too 1984 for me. But
yeah. Now Google Classroom does have that lockdown browser if you want to do multiple choice questions.
And make sure you do that too if you're going to give them out on Google Forms, because Google Forms are hackable.
Yeah. We had a question here. Interested in Nate's thoughts if we should have some sort of blended learning model in the fall. Like when parents take kids back.
Here would be my answer to that. Why not? I mean, you don't have anything to lose. And ultimately, if you think about a lot of our students and what they're going to be doing in the future, it's going to demand a lot of online work. I mean, not saying that obviously like all work is going to go that way. Certainly not. But if we think about the fact that this may very well not be gone by the time we get to the fall, like we might be, and John and I were talking about this before we started recording, like very commonly, if this kind of thing is going to flare up, you're going to see school possibly come back for a month, and then you might have like a local breakout and they have to shut everything down again, which is going to be immensely frustrating. And the one thing I would recommend just to every teacher right now is like test out some e-learning days with your kids when they come back. Yeah. And the way that I did this, because I'm a history teacher, so I tried to pay attention to world events. And I was like, okay, guys, we're going to do a test e-learning day. And they're like, why? It's January. And I'm like, why not? It snows in Indiana. And it was so immensely frustrating for them because I was sitting there in the same room with them, and they had to use Remind or Talking Points. Also, great app, Talking Points. Highly recommend you check out. And they had to text me inside the room, even though I was right there. And they were so angry and frustrated with me because they're like, "Oh, I just need help with this." I'm like, I couldn't. I thought I heard something in the room. Like I thought I heard somebody say something, but I really need an email. And so they would have to get on there and email me. And helping kids through the grind was immensely helpful in that respect. So just like that'd be one thing I would test if we do go back in the fall in some capacity.
And Mary, I just follow that up a little bit too, is even if we don't go out, some of the things that like again, I've been making these short little 1 minute, 2 minute videos just with explanations of what our assignments are. And I know it's a little bit more effort now, but it's like I feel like it's been paying dividends now. I'm just trying to think of what that would be like, in a face-to-face, traditional classroom setting where we're like, okay, here's your assignment. Oh, wait, there's the instructions. You want to keep, you need some extra help, or you missed a day, or the parents want to know, or a tutor. I think that's going to pay me some dividends, and I might have to start doing some of that, continue doing that as I get back into the traditional room. Other thoughts, other questions? I see a lot of people still hanging out here.
Did you fart in here?
Oh. Great. The mind of an 8-year-old.
Right. The other thing that I would also encourage people to think about is that digital is different. It's not the same as in person. And so the thing that I've been encountering a lot are teachers who've just been trying to digitize everything. And we actually had this like e-learning triage chart that I did at a presentation where it was like the people down at the very bottom in red were like, how can I just do what I'm doing and throw it online? Like, how can I do that? And I was like, you can't. It's just not the same. It's not the same dynamic. And it's also true in the reverse. Like what you do online in many cases cannot also be done in the classroom. It doesn't play the same. So,
not at all. But that idea of blended or flipping for traditional classroom, I think that could really be beneficial later on.
If there's anybody interested out there in also doing that, I have a blog post on flipping a classroom. Would that be of value to anyone? I don't want to like. Would that be of any assistance? Because I do have a flipped dual credit classroom.
Okay, if anybody's interested, go ahead and throw it in the chat there, and anybody wants it, they can grab it. JD will also record it on the website.
Okay, I'll link it just because, but yeah.
And you think about flipping though, it's like, because I know a guy that flipped his classroom, and it was basically so he could sit there for an hour playing Clash of Clans. He's like, Jesus. I think you're missing the point, man. I think you're missing the point of flipping. Anybody? All right, let's see here. Lots of flipping benefits of videos. Awesome. Hey guys, I appreciate all your time. I'm going to slip out because it is bath time there. Well, one of them's out of the bath asking who's farting in here. So great. Thank you, 9-year-old. These are my kids. And I send them to school every day. So, but I appreciate everybody. I appreciate your time and your questions and stuff. And I look forward to seeing you again. All right, guys?
John, could you tell us who's up next?
Maybe. I have I'm hoping to nail down a social worker
Okay.
and kind of talk to us a little bit about, staying positive, keeping up, and then also like what kind of signs and things you can see in your kids, even, limited communication like this.
And that's Thursday night?
Huh?
Thursday night, right?
That's what I'm hoping to nail down. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. I'll see you.
Bye.
Thanks, Nate. I appreciate your time. Great stuff.
No, thanks. I appreciate it.
All right. Take care, guys.
See you, everybody.